President Trump will meet with GOP senators during their weekly policy luncheon today to talk about tax reform. Joining me right now is Guggenheim Partners Executive Chairman Alan Schwartz. And Alan, it's good to see you again. Thanks so much for joining us.
Great to see you.
Yeah, Guggenheim has been such a great, successful firm. We want to ask you your take on tax reform and how important it is. How important is it that they get this done?
I think it's very important, and I actually think they will. I think that obviously health care was not what they wanted it to be. I think tax reform is very, very important, primarily corporate tax reform. I think the challenge is when you put in personal taxes along with corporate, it gets much more complicated. But I think there's a consensus around corporate reform, and I think they'll get it done.
What area of the market benefits most? I mean, if you see the corporate rate at 20% and then the pass-through rate at 25%, are you looking at small and mid-cap companies as the largest beneficiary here?
No, I think small and mid-cap don't get the pass-through rate because they're public. So I think that small and mid-cap have reasons to recover anyway. But I think you saw defensives outperform cyclicals, I think, both with the global recovery that's going on now. And if we get tax reform, I think you'll see that it's really the cyclicals and the globals that'll do well.
So you've got locations, obviously, all across the world. Tell us why you're in Saudi this week. What kind of opportunities do you see in terms of deals or investment opportunities?
Right. Well, I think that's coming in the future. I think today, the conference that we're here at is an incredible event. And I think the Crown Prince and everybody is really announcing that they are changing the whole nature of the way they think about this economy and this culture. And so that's a tremendous opportunity. We have a partner, KBBO, here on the ground that we started a joint venture 3 years ago because you kind of sense that this is really an opportunity for Saudi Arabia to really move forward in a lot of areas outside of oil. And I think they'll do it on a global partnership and cooperation way. And so there's some opportunities now in healthcare services and areas like that, but I think in the future there's going to be a lot of opportunity.
When I spoke with His Royal Highness yesterday, I couldn't believe how passionate he was about that. He said, look, we have to think about our country. We have to think about growth here. We can't focus on this extremist view, the extremist. He's pushing back on the extremists and instead saying, we want Saudis to spend their money in Saudi. We want foreigners to come in and say, this is an area for infrastructure, for medical devices, for all sorts of industry.
Yeah, I think so. And when you look at where the Gulf is, the Gulf could be if you think about a pickup in global activity, which we could see, they're very well placed geographically. And they have a younger demo than a lot of the developed world. Their demographic is, much younger. So I think that if they take the reforms that they're talking about, this whole Gulf Coast and Saudi as a leader could have a real revival going forward.
I think you make such an important point in terms of the youth and young people. 70% of the population under 30 years old.
Exactly.
That's incredible.
Well, it's incredible when you compare it to the population of the United States, Europe, Japan, China. You have a demographic that's getting very old, so it's a balancing opportunity to have a younger demographic that you can tap into.
Let me ask you about what, of course, you've been the king of deals your entire career, and I want to see what your ideas are or your thoughts are on mergers and acquisitions this moment in time.
Well, I think, if you talk to any investment bankers right now, I think everybody's very, very busy in discussions. I think there's a lot of merger activity and joint venture activity being considered. But I think it's different this time around than it's been for quite some time. It used to be much more about consolidation within sectors. And once people started thinking about coming together as companies, that generally the times it would actually happen were pretty high yield. Now, as people are looking outside their core competence and thinking as the world is changing and disintermediation is coming, I think there's going to be a lot more deals thought about with a lower yield as the ones that actually get done. But I'm optimistic we'll still have a strong deal environment.
So are you expecting cross-border deals more than anything else? You expect U.S. in terms of sectors or U.S.-China, U.S.-Saudi? How's that going to play out?
I think there'll be cross-border, but I think the bigger trend is cross-industry and cross-capabilities. With this whole change, you see somebody like Amazon coming into Whole Foods. You see the different ways that old industry models are being disrupted. It means that if you're in one of the old industry models, you have to think about getting new skill sets and going out of your own lane, which is a lot more cross-industry, cross-capability.
All right, real quick, now the important stuff. Dodgers, Astros tonight. I didn't realize you are actually a former pitcher drafted by the Cincinnati Reds. You still playing baseball?
That was in the dead ball era. But, well, look, Mark Walter, Todd Bowley, and Irvin Johnson have all told me the Dodgers are going to win, and they're never wrong, so I'm going with them.
All right, Alan, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Good
Enjoy
to see
the
you.
conference. Alan Schwartz, Guggenheim. We'll take